Welcome to the Cherith podcast. I am Evelyn Ngatia, your host. I am a born-again believer in Jesus Christ, a child of God, also a learning consultant focusing on secure leadership. This podcast has 3 pillars: faith, mental health, and secure leadership. I welcome you. Let's learn, let's grow, let's heal together. Let's walk together on this journey to secure leadership. Happy learning. Welcome to the Cherith podcast. I'm Evelyn Ngatia, your host. And today's episode is episode 12, where we talk about yes, narcissistic traits can be healed. And today we have none other than our guest for episode 11, Carmilla Edalia, who's going to continue with the conversation, but in a different dimension. But before we get into that, remember to subscribe, like, share your feedback. And imagine, guys, we've reached the end. This is the end of season 1. So yay! Let's clap for me and for ourselves.
Well done.
It's been such a great journey from season 1 from episode 1 up to episode 12. Very grateful for all our guests who've been on the show, all the information and the insights that they've shared. I'm grateful to Sema Box, who has been a podcast studio, but also a sponsor. So thank you to everyone and to the audience. You've been such a good source of encouragement, and I know you've been blessed as well with the content. So thank you for watching. Thank you for liking, for subscribing, for sharing with your WhatsApp platforms. It really helps to grow this channel and grow the audience. So today we have our topic for today, which is yes, narcissistic traits can be healed. Now, go ahead and do a study. Ask anyone, can narcissism be healed? And the answer you'll get is a very interesting no. I remember one time I posted a short clip about, is there hope for narcissists? And someone commented and just said no, period. That was the comment. And I said, wow, so people actually believe and know at the depths of their heart that narcissism cannot be healed. But today's topic is different. I want us to go in a different direction, that yes, it can be healed. And this lady who's going to break it down for us actually is the genesis of this podcast, of this episode. So karibu sana, Carmilla.
Hey, huge responsibility on me.
Yes.
I'm the genesis for that narrative that you're putting out there now. Eh?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I think as we were discussing the last time, I met you at the Mental Health Expo. And you're actually the first stall that I stopped at.
Oh.
It was actually, I walked in, I knew I needed podcast guests, but when I just walked in and I think I found your colleague there, and we chatted a bit and he referred me back to you and we chatted. But your passion for narcissism, especially on this other side, we've really dealt with the victims of narcissistic abuse. But your key pointers were, we also need interventions for those with narcissistic traits. I think that really stuck with me. And so as we develop this episode, you're a big part of that topic for today.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
All right. Good to know that conversation sparked that.
Yeah.
And thank you also for visiting. I think you were the first person at our booth as well.
Really?
And that has led to this. So that's a really good
opportunity.
Progression, and a good opportunity.
Yeah.
So even as I go ahead, I'd like to say that at Endeleo Counselling Therapy, which is the practice for which I'm a founder and a psychologist, we have 3 things that we stand on. One is inclusivity. The other one is intergenerational. And then the third one is igniting. So when we say inclusive, it means we are very big on addressing both parties. That anytime something has happened, there's an abuse that has happened, we work both with the victim and the perpetrator. Yeah, and so because of that, I guess that's why it's very natural for me also to say, yes, narcissistic abuse is a real thing, is a concerning thing. And as we work to empower the victims, we also must it would be important to also have interventions for the perpetrators.
Yeah.
And as you said, yes, of course, there's hope. So the inclusivity means everyone is welcome. You never know who will come to my office. It just might be the person with narcissism. Yeah, it's not a given that it's the victim who will come in. And as my call of duty, yes, I'm very ready, open, and welcome to work with them. And then also the bit of igniting. We are very big on ignition, setting a fire that will bring a change, so that you don't just come to therapy to talk. But after it, something is changing in your mindset. Something is changing in your gut and in your behavior.
Yeah.
So I just needed to put it out there that, yes, we're very big on inclusivity and ignition. And for the intergenerational thing, is connected to our conversation today. Because, for someone to be diagnosed and told that they have a narcissistic personality disorder, it must have become evident from their adolescent years. If it's something that has started in their adulthood, believe it or not, they will not pass the threshold for the diagnosis. So that's why it's important. I bring it in to say that we are intergenerational, meaning we start working with human beings right from when they are children, so that in case there's a hint or tendency of such things developing, we can catch it early and prevent it from becoming something that can be very concerning. And
All right. So as we were engaging, you described narcissism as a growing global concern. Why is that? Why is that your view? Why is it?
It's my view, because when I interact with social media, there are very many conversations and complaints about narcissism. And it is widespread because it's a lot of it is happening in romantic relationships, where people will say, yeah, my person or my ex was a narcissist, or I'm married to one. It also goes to the family, where people can say that, yeah, my parent was narcissistic. We are also seeing it in leadership, like in politics, even at the organizations. Actually, one of the concerns that happens in corporates is that there are people who are at the helm and they can be narcissistic. And so you find that there's also bullying and harassment happening even in the corporate sector. So it's something that is in every corner. Family, corporate, where else have I said, relationships, and this being a faith podcast, even in the church.
Absolutely.
Yes, it can happen anywhere. So because of that, the fact that it's all in our faces means that it is definitely something that we would need to pay attention to.
Okay.
And also the fact that the term is used a lot.
Right.
Sometimes it's used erroneously, because like I said, for someone to be said that they have the narcissistic personality disorder, which we are going to refer to as NPD, they must meet some criteria.
Right.
And you might find that not all these people who are being labeled that are meeting that criteria.
Okay.
So what is looked at is early onset. It needs to have started in the adolescent years. Number 2, it needs to be in every aspect. So it can be that at work you're narcissistic, then at home you're not. So we have to see that trait in every interaction for you to qualify. And then, so for those people who might have those tendencies, like, the aggression, the manipulation, the self-centeredness, some people we can just say they have the traits, but they're not actually having the disorder.
Yeah.
So you may have the trait, but not necessarily that you have the disorder. Yeah. So that's an important thing also to put out there, that we don't just go labeling people
Right.
as that, because maybe they're not.
Yeah. And I think I asked you a question on the last episode, the difference between a clinical and a counseling psychologist, and you broke it down. But I want you to break it down again in the perspective of narcissistic personality disorder. Where does your work begin in terms of NPD, and where does a clinical psychologist, where is that distinction?
So the clinical psychologist will conduct some tests. There's usually some standardized tests that are done, and mostly it's through asking questions about various ways that the person interacts or relates with people and things. So if they meet the threshold, like I say, then they can be given that diagnosis.
Okay.
Where we come in is, there's no medication. Personality disorders are not like the other kinds of disorders where people are given medication, that if you're having an episode, get this injection. No. With personality disorders, we come in as counseling psychologists to help this person with some practical tools and things that they can begin to try. We give them homework and we have conversations with them in a certain kind of way to achieve the goal of helping them become aware and to start taking action. Yeah, so we don't diagnose, we just help them to make the necessary changes and also to understand where could it have started from.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There's something also you mentioned about labeling. I don't know if you want to get into that now. Labeling in the sense of, as a counseling psychologist, the strategy that you use, especially when you come across someone who has narcissistic traits, how do you go about handling them?
Well, there are many interventions that can be used. And also as counselors, we are equipped with like even up to 100 kinds of interventions. So depending on the person and the situation, you pick the most relevant. So one of the things we'll do is the use of language. A person who's very high on narcissistic tendencies does not like being challenged.
Right.
They also don't like to be made to feel like something is wrong with them. So in that scenario, it means the language to be used and the approach to be used will be very collaborative. How has it worked for you? Do you think there's any other strategy, like in how you're dealing with your employees or how you're dealing with your partner? What do you think? So you don't bring in the fact that sounds problematic. No. You just begin from engaging them and hearing what they have to say. Then also with the language, we don't label the person, we label the behavior.
Right.
That seems very self-centered or that seems very aggressive. Not you seem very aggressive, so we'll work with language. Number two, we will use an intervention which allows collaboration so that they don't see like the therapist is here and I'm here. It's like we are here, two minds thinking together. So that's a whole body or an intervention that therapists know of. It's called the collaborative therapy, so that the person does not get into a defensive mode.
Right.
Then a third approach, which would be the final one I'll suggest today, would be we use a lot of metaphors and art, where we can do a case study on something. We come up with a story, or we come up with something in nature, like a lake or a waterfall, and we get them to see if what could be the danger of this waterfall. Can this waterfall be used in another way to make it beautiful? And what about you? Are there aspects about you that are a superpower, but if are being used badly? And is there any way we can change that and you use it well? So metaphors make it easier to work with someone who's very high on the narcissistic trait, because by the time you're finishing the case study, they will begin to see themselves, and also they'll begin to see alternatives rather than the one way of thinking and behaving which they've been using.
Okay. Okay. And so there's been this widespread narrative that there's no hope. I'm very cognizant of language now since our interaction.
Good girl.
They say there's no hope for those with narcissism or with narcissistic traits. What's your view on that? Is that something that you also believe, or what's your belief around that? And why do people believe that?
Why do people believe that? All right. First, do you believe that, so that we can?
I think for me, I feel now you're interviewing the interviewer.
I better not be narcissistic in this episode.
But to answer your question, I think initially I also had the belief that they cannot change. Also being a victim of narcissistic abuse and having interacted with them, I see the difficulty in them changing. But the more I interact with people, with psychologists, and understanding, and even with literature, like I think I was... as we were chatting, I was telling you about this study that this Dr. Igor Weinberg has done. And he did a study, the report is in 2024, right? So I think the study was done before. And he was saying out of 8 patients that they studied, in a period of 2.5 to 5 years,
Yeah.
they were not exhibiting those traits.
Mm.
So it's like they were initially tested for these narcissistic traits. After this, the process and whatever,
Yeah.
at the end of the study period, they were not exhibiting those
Those traits. Yeah.
And if you're doing what do you call it, a test or
Mm.
assessment, then they were not meeting the criteria. So meaning they were not meeting the threshold.
Yeah.
So they were not no longer exhibiting those narcissistic traits. So there was
Exactly.
considerable improvement, and that's documented study
Yeah.
research that
Nice.
has been done. So the more I read about it, the more I also want to challenge. And the goal of this podcast
Yeah.
is if we can get people with narcissism to change, to watch the podcast, to see, the harm that they've done and want change.
Yeah.
I can rest knowing I've achieved what I wanted to achieve
What
on
you
this
want-
earth.
Okay,
Yeah.
that would be one big thing coming out
Yes.
of this episode,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so I like that the study was done because
Yeah.
at least then it's not just hearsay, it's actually measurable, it's actually tangible. It's not a fluke because it's actually 8 people that you're talking about.
Yeah.
So in psychology, most psychologists know this, that we usually stay away from absolute terms. Things like never. Never. That is not language that is used in our profession. Why we say this is because when you use such language, first of all, you're dismissing the chance of someone even putting in an effort.
Right.
And actually, such language is what makes behavior to continue or persist. Anytime you give an option to your brain, to even the society, already you become active and you start saying, is there a way around it? So we can say it is hard for the person with high narcissism to change, but it is not impossible.
Okay.
And that's not the only hard thing. We can also say it's also grief is hard, trauma is hard. There are very many mental health challenges that we can say are hard.
Yeah.
But we won't say that they're not they're impossible. Yes, so it's
Right.
difficult and doable. Number 2 thing, I find that one reason perhaps people say that a lot could be just the way you've said it. It might be limited information, that we are just happy that we've discovered. Finally, we have a label or a name to give to this behavior. Yes. So we can change and say we label the behavior, not the person.
Right.
And then the other thing is to bring in evidence and different kinds of interventions and approaches. We try them and test them and see, are they working? Are they working? So first is to say, I mean, one of the things I'd like to say is that those labels, it would be good if they ceased.
Okay.
Yes, that let it be that the person who's been examined and missed the threshold, we can say that about them.
Yeah.
But even if we say about them, it need not be the only thing. Like me introducing you or introducing myself. Hey, I'm Carmilla, and I have trauma. Because then there are so many other aspects of me aside from the
Right.
trauma.
Yeah.
Then also in mental health, we talk about something called labels. That if we examine you today, Evelyn, using the test for narcissism, we may find that you may be qualifying for some of the things. If we examine me, I may be qualifying for some of the things because things like wanting attention, wanting to feel special, not being apologetic, there are multiple people who can say yes. It's very hard for me to say sorry. But we look, are you having all the traits?
Yeah.
Most of the time in every scenario.
Yeah.
Then I'm losing my train of thought. What you wanted me to clarify is why is it that, what are some of the possible reasons people are...
Why do people believe that, people with NPD cannot change?
Oh, yeah.
And what's your view?
Yeah.
What's your specific view?
Okay.
Yeah.
So going back to the way the belief about them not changing, I said it could be that the information is very limited and the information can also be one-sided. In medicine, there are very many conditions that at one point were thought to be incurable, nothing can happen about them.
Right.
For example, things like passing on HIV to a baby. There was a very long period in time where it was a given. If I have HIV and I give birth today, it's a given my child will get it. But through research and testing and all, right now, that is no longer the case. you know that there are ways to prevent the transmission. So same thing with disorders, narcissism and all others. For a given period of time, it was thought that once you have this diagnosis, it is final. But right now, through research and trials and opening up various approaches and conventions, we are finding no, actually people can register a reduction in the intensity of these traits, or even can be healed from those traits.
Yeah.
So that you say, I used to be narcissistic, or I used to be very high on narcissism. Right now, it's very negligible.
Okay.
So with more research, as time goes by, with more interventions and experiments and all, things are beginning to change. But
Yeah.
also remember, in mental health, no absolutes. There's nothing like never,
Okay.
can never.
I like that. So it's different. I think it's a breath of fresh air that, hey guys, let's stop focusing on the labels. Let's stop focusing on that this cannot be healed. There are ways, and there are ways that, that can be healed. And that's what now I want to dive into.
Yeah.
What are the ways that okay, we're not labeling, right? Those with narcissism,
Yeah.
high narcissism traits,
Yeah.
how can they be healed practically? What are the healing? What do you call them? I don't even know
The
what you call them.
interventions.
Interventions,
Yeah.
yes.
With interventions, one approach is usually to go back to the cause or the onset. Where could these have started from? So right now, according to the research that is available, there are various possible causes. One of the causes is actually physical or biological, where when our brains are scanned, it can be found that the people who have a higher level of narcissistic traits, the size of their brain, particularly this front part, we usually call it the prefrontal cortex, is a bit bigger than for the average person. And number two, they are also emitting higher levels of stress hormones. And
Right.
why that can happen sometimes, it can happen when a woman is pregnant and she's very stressed. It means she's releasing those hormones. So the baby in her womb is also, getting those hormones. And so that's why you find that when we say someone has that disorder, it started early in life. And it could be that they could have caught it from being exposed to stress. So one is the physical differences in our brain structure. Two is the chemical or the hormonal differences in us. Then third is about their relationships or attachment styles. That you find that a child who has been very, very neglected will become very thirsty for attention, very thirsty for importance. So sometimes it is that neglect that can cause a person to develop it. Also, when they are over pampered, it can also cause it, because now they learn these other people are not important. I'm the only important person.
Yeah.
So this can happen maybe if someone is an only girl or an only boy, or maybe they were born after their parents had really struggled. So because of that, they're pampered with too much love, too much attention. You get your way. So they don't ever learn that, you know what, other people exist. They also have needs. It's all about me. So I've given you three possible causes. It could be physical, it could be chemical, it could be interactional.
Right.
So what happens is we are able to explore with the client, going back, so that we see what could be happening. Now, the good thing is that all these three things, something can be done. That if we are finding that it's a matter of attachment or neglect or overshadowing, we then begin to teach this client that, the world is made up of all these people.
Yeah.
And you have these needs, and all these people have all these needs.
Yeah.
And so for it to work, it's not, for it to work like in relationships and all, it cannot be just one-sided. These other people also exist, and they have 1, 2, 3. And they can get some activities or exercises to begin experimenting. If I try and give attention to them just for 2 minutes, but then it comes back to me, will it make a difference? So it's them testing and seeing. But then we have equipped them with something to do to change their relationships. When it comes to the stress, if the cause is we see it like it could be there was so much stress or trauma in their childbirth or when their mother was pregnant with them, then we also help and teach them some relaxation skills. So nowadays you'll hear people talking about things like mindfulness, things like, me time and quiet time. What that is helping is you're teaching somebody some stress management skills, because when the stress is managed, then the hormonal levels of stress go down, then a person is more balanced. Because when someone is stressed, they cannot regulate their emotions. They cannot be rational. So you imagine someone with high narcissistic traits might be having very high levels of stress all the time.
Yeah.
That is their reality. Then now when it comes to the brain can also change, not only for people with high narcissism, but even things like ADHD. You find that more and more science is proving there's a difference in how their brain looks like. But even that structure is able to change, and we'll get into it further as I share some of the discoveries that have been made concerning how we can alter how our brain is wired or how our brain is structured. Yeah.
No better time than now
No better time
to talk
than
about
now.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
So please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. So in psychology and mental health, we are now having a lot of collaborations. Before, it would be psychologists are just there working on their own. Medics are there working on their own, scientists are there. But right now, we do a lot of collaboration. That's why we're able to see this behavior. Is there anything that scientist is seeing in the scan?
Yeah.
So now we see, yes, they're doing it. We call it neuroscience. So neuroscience, study of the science of the brain.
Right.
So I'll take it like these colors, yeah? You see, there's a way these colors have been arranged in this box. So before, it used to be believed that by the time you get to 24 years...
I hope they can see.
Can they see?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, yeah. But it used to be believed that by the time a human being gets to 24, their brain, let's assume these are what we call the neurons. Neurons are just like connections or connectors in the brain. It gets complete and it is final. So it was believed that as of 24, somebody cannot change. They cannot change their mind. They cannot change their intelligence. That's who they are. But now with neuroscience, we are discovering that actually, no, we can change these colors. We can change this arrangement. So this change, the way the brain is able to change forever and ever, even at 60, even at 70, we now has a term, and the term is neuroplasticity. So it means there are some actions or activities that when you begin to do them, then the structure of your brain can begin to change. And so that is the hope for that person who might be narcissistic because of their brain structure. That if it's because their cortex is bigger or larger and they're losing sight of things like they're very impulsive, they are very they lack the regulation of their emotions, the regulation of their actions, then now if this begins to change, then it can get back to a normal size or a desired size. So even if it doesn't go back to the normal, but if it reduces in size, then we are saying that the intensity of these traits can go down. That if they were super impulsive, they become less impulsive. If they had empathy is usually a challenge for people who are high on narcissism, but actually we say it's one kind of empathy. They may know that Evelyn is feeling bad, but they don't have the capacity to soothe Evelyn. But you see now with neuroplasticity, we're increasing their capacity to, even if I don't feel like, let me soothe her. And you see by then we are saying that the intensity or the condition is getting under control. Yeah, so with that discovery, it has changed the whole game of these disorders. Because with neuroplasticity, now we are saying whatever condition it is, if we're able to see which part of your brain is having the issue, then we direct activities that affect that part of the brain so that we change it and steer it towards becoming better. I think this is also hopeful for the person with the traits, because then now they realize, oh, so my behavior and my predisposition is not out of my control. I can actually do something about it.
And what are those activities? You mentioned activities that you would direct to that part of the brain. What are some of those activities? Give me like examples.
I give you like examples. Okay, we can use something like we take a behavior that is very common. Let's say like criticism.
Yes.
We realize you're a leader and you criticize employees on a daily.
Yeah.
So we can use the activity of delay, where we say, right, instead of criticizing them at 8 a.m., you will criticize them from 10. So between 8 and 10,
Interesting.
zip it. But from 10, you can start. So do this for a week, do this for a month. So you see, after a while, the person is already learning the skill of delay and they're losing their impulsivity.
Yeah.
We can also have an activity for reduction, that maybe you usually shout at these people, but now you are allowed to criticize, but your volume has to be negated. But remember, as this person is doing this, they are coming back to therapy so that there's some form of accountability happening for them.
Yeah.
So these exercises is not like you're sitting with a book doing this. Is we are picking out specific traits that you're showing, and then you're getting tasks that are helping you to take control, either to delay or to reduce. So we'll not expect you to just wake up and stop criticizing. But if you're able to reduce, if you're able to change, then something is happening to your brain. Actually, how you change your brain is by those activities, because everything you're exposing everything your brain is exposed to actually changes your brain. That's also how you learn a language. That's also how you learn what else? A skill is through exposure. As you do, you get better. And by the way, if you stop doing, you will lose it. Even language, you lose fluency if you're not speaking it. So remember, this person with narcissism, probably in their upbringing, there's something they missed. But right now, as an adult, we are beginning to expose them to what they missed, so that then they develop what was misdeveloped or underdeveloped. So at least the hope there is that there's a cause. It's not just random that someone is highly narcissistic. There's a cause. And if we're able to narrow down its attachment, then we focus on attachment-based interventions. If we realize it's the brain structure, then we focus on activities that will be directed to the brain. If it is stress, you learn how to relax.
You mentioned something about while we were discussing about not, even as you're counseling those with narcissistic traits, how effective it is when you do not label them, even if you've done the test. And I mean, even if you know that they are narcissistic, they have narcissistic traits.
Yeah.
It's not as effective to outrightly tell them, hey, you have narcissistic traits. It's more effective if you work through I think you said something like that.
Yeah.
I want you to talk about that.
To talk
that
about
part.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I will say that it's not that narcissists are people with high narcissism are not people. They are people.
Yeah.
So there are things about them that are common to everyone. But then there are things about them that are unique just to them. So one of the things that makes it easier for someone to take feedback or someone to come to terms with something, especially something unpleasant,
Right.
yeah, is we focus not maybe on the name, we just focus on the activity. And as we do that activity, they themselves will notice that now I am less impulsive. Now I am less aggressive. Now I'm able to also allow other people a chance to be recognized without you ever saying that we were actually working on
narcissism.
And the same thing also applies to the victims. Victims can also feel very resistant. Don't call me a victim. I don't like being referred to as that. So even for them, you realize they've been exposed to this abuse. It's not good for them. But if you begin calling it that, they might resist the intervention. So we just work on what are your dreams? What are your goals? What do you like? And in the process, we are healing their lost identity. We are healing their lost self-esteem without ever calling them a victim. And then, Evelyn, I also want to reiterate, we are very big on labeling behavior and not people.
Right.
Yeah. So if we focus on the behavior, not on the person, it's easier for the person to, let's work on that behavior. Yeah, let's work on it, not on
Right.
on me.
Okay. Fair
And
enough.
you achieve the goal.
Okay. So a lot of people, and I've had this, watching many things where people with NPD or see the benefit of remaining with the narcissistic traits. It gives them power. It gives them control.
Yeah.
It makes them feel like they're above everyone else, because those emotions that you guys feel, I feel nothing. I'm above you guys, So those benefits that they see of living with narcissism sometimes makes them remain there, not want to change. So how do you make someone who's struggling with these narcissistic traits, how do you make them see the cost of narcissism and the benefit of doing the work?
The benefit of doing the work.
Yeah.
The approach that I consider is the approach of adding rather than removing. Because the need for power and the need to be in control is actually not a narcissistic need, is everybody's need. And we begin to see it right from the age of 1.5 to 2 years, where you try to feed a child, they grab the spoon.
Yeah.
You're trying to dress them, and they don't know how to do it. It's showing you by nature, we have that innate need to be in control. Now, the challenge for the narcissist is they're only using one type of power. They're using coercion. So for them, what I would do is to offer them options and tell them, do you know there are very many ways to be in charge? It's not just coercion. Connection is one way to be in charge.
Yeah.
Because sometimes someone will be in your corner, not because of what you can give them, but it's because of how much they love you.
Yeah.
Or the bond, and then they'll do it for you. So one task that I can suggest or I would recommend is opening them up to realize that coercion is one form of power, and then there are 6 other kinds of power.
Right.
So if you're only using this one, might you be underperforming? And if you give someone with narcissism such a challenge, they're like, underperforming? What are those other 6? I want to know them. I want to try them. So you present them with more options. Because this is all they know.
Yeah.
But kumbe, if they realize there are others, they can take advantage.
Right.
Number 2, remember I said if this thing is stemming from childhood and all, it's familiar. It's all they know. And whatever is familiar is usually easy. It feels easy.
Yes.
And it feels it can feel safe, even though it is not. So also educating the person to understand the various stages of life they've gone through and what is important. And again, you're using this generally. You tell them, do you know between age this and this, a human goes through this. Between age that, what about you? How do you think you navigated those stages? So you have a conversation, so that it's not you're here for what? For shaming and you're in trouble. Is like, imagine there's this school of thought. What are your thoughts about it? Yeah. So it's a very subtle and creative way of challenging the person without them even realizing that I am being challenged and I'm also being shown options.
Yes.
And and I'm not gonna lose my power.
Yeah.
There are other ways to have power. And finally, there's something we talked about, identity and awareness. It does not mean that the fact that that person is saying they don't care, that they actually don't care.
Is it?
Yes, because one very common thing about people who have high levels of narcissism, they are very insecure. They don't know if they're good enough. Actually, they think my performance and my achievement is what makes me worthy. Without them, I'm no one. Yeah. But actually, if they can get that reassurance and to realize that, do you know, Evelyn, I can just respect you just because you're a human. I don't care. I don't want to know what you've studied, how much you make. Just because you're human, you have a seat there. So I'm teaching you that you can be loved for that. So the person with high narcissism may have been conditioned to think that their worth is pegged on performance. Not feelings, not worthiness. But if they can begin to, if they can begin to see and realize that you can also be loved just for being you, then it can make a difference. And this being said, Evelyn, what I know is that it's not easy. I said it's possible, it's difficult, and doable. So don't imagine that you'll just have one session with this person. Of course, you need multiple sessions if they're your client.
Right.
And also that is the role of the community, because if it's just you, you're relating with a friend who has high narcissism. You can't offer all these interventions.
Mm.
Other people have to come in. So that's where therapists can come in, and even this podcast where we are educating the rest of the society to know that this is how you deal with such a person if we want them to actually change. Yeah, but if we continue with the battle where we're just labeling you and leaving you as you are, then no wonder they're not going to change. And it's a loss for them. It's also a loss for the rest of the people who are
Right.
at risk of getting abused or harassed by them.
Yes.
Mm.
And so you mentioned insecurity, you mentioned coercion, and the traits that we see, the ones with narcissistic traits, the traits we see them exhibiting are coping mechanisms. What are they trying to cope with?
What are they trying to
Yeah,
cope
what are
with?
they trying to cope with?
Okay, we all have our emotional needs. And one of the emotional needs we have is a need for attention. We also have the need to be in control. We also have the need for intimacy and the need for status.
Okay.
Now, like I said, if in somebody's upbringing, certain conditions were not balanced, either they were over given or not given, then it means they're not operating under a very healthy or normal environment. So in their mind, they're consistently in some form of danger. And anytime there's danger, you'll do something. It's human instinct. Right now, someone can't just come here and shoot you while you're seated. You'll try to hide,
Right.
it's in your instinct. So imagine that is the brain and the reality of a person with high levels of narcissism. They're constantly feeling, I'm not good enough. I have to keep proving.
Right.
But not realizing it's actually possible for you to be important without having to prove or be on top. And these other people, we can all coexist and be okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So high levels of insecurity, and they will put up a facade. So that showing that I don't care, they do. But it's just that they're not willing for other people to know. Because then if they know, I'm going to
the
become,
mask is off.
I'm going to be seen as weak. And that's exactly what I don't want, because that's my status. That's my identity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But
Okay.
also, like I said, also with the brain issue, you see, as you grow and your brain is changing, a small child thinks the world revolves around them.
Yeah.
But as they're growing older and developing healthily, they begin to see, oh, there are other people. So it means also this person with narcissism is stuck somewhere in their development. And we need to help them, because now if their brain develops normally, then they'll get out of that and realize, I don't have to be the only one. But insisting this is theoretical. The practical aspect of it is not as easy or as fast, because even if you're a therapist working with such a client, you require a lot of your own personal therapy to deal with the impact. And you also require skill, because how you'll work with this person is different from how you work with another one who doesn't have it. So also the skill to be good at it, to ensure they don't feel intimidated, they don't think it's a competition. You'll use a lot of energy.
Yes.
And you have to be very tactical.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not easy for anyone, for the person with the narcissism, for the victim, for the mental health person, for it's not easy.
It's not easy.
But remember, it is achievable. And with these tools and information, you keep doing it.
Yeah.
And you give it time. You test, you give it time, and it's doable, it's possible.
And I think, back to our, the very opposite, the first question,
Yeah.
that this is a growing concern globally. So it's up to all of us to see what we can do to actually eliminate this growing concern.
Yeah.
So it's not just the victims who need to get healed.
Yeah.
It's the ones who with narcissistic traits who also need to recognize what's happening. It's the therapists that need to plug in and say, hey, we focused a lot on the ones with the victims.
Yeah.
Can we now look at how to heal, to intervene with the ones with narcissistic traits?
Yeah.
So you wanted to say something?
Yes, and also the rest of the people, because you see the narcissistic trait is nurtured. by the
Right.
environment.
Yeah.
If you grow in an environment and then there are no consequences, there are no boundaries, you're being praised for being intelligent, and we are overlooking that you're also harassing people. So you see also the rest of the society and environment has a role not to engage in behavior or responses that will keep encouraging the person to continue. Any behavior, if it meets an environment that kills it, it dies down. But the fact that it's increasing, it means also the environment is enabling it to grow.
So you're a leader in an organization. What would your role be in disallowing that behavior to grow?
So in organizations, we need to have structures whereby there's a given code of the behavior that is expected.
Right.
And if deviation happens, there needs to be a clear consequence.
Mm-hmm.
What happens, like in our country, you'll find, yes, the policies are there, but people don't believe that they will be followed.
Right.
So they're even afraid to report this manager, this head of whatever that is harassing us, because they know, but if I report Evelyn, actually, I will be fired.
Right.
You know? So the people who are leading the organizations need not only to have that code of there being an expected code of behavior and an expected consequence, but they need to make sure that it is actually working. Because when that is done, then it means the employees will report and something will be done. And even that leader will know, by the even though I'm the CEO here, if I don't cooperate, my job is taken, and I can even have a court case. So it will force them to behave. But if they get away with it, then they will continue.
Right.
And that is human nature. Anything that you get away with and felt good, you will continue to do it. But if you meet a barrier, you'll stop. Yeah. Then number two thing, we stop labeling the person, we start labeling the behavior. Because when we label the behavior, even that person is more apt to rethink and rechange. But if we keep calling Carmilla the narcissist, Carmilla the narcissist, then I take up that and I say, yeah, I'm going to show you how narcissistic I can be. But if we say that is and not Carmilla, then you're also giving Carmilla the room to increase her self-awareness, to reflect, and by herself, she can begin to rethink.
Yeah.
Is this the best way? Is this the only way? So the environment does play a role.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think we've run out of time, but
no.
I know time flies when you're having a good time. And I don't think we can even exhaust all the questions that I have in my mind, but I think this episode is enough to sort of spark a conversation, to drive change, to be the beginning to drive change around narcissism, not just awareness, but how also those traits can be healed. And just to close off, there's someone watching on the camera who is exhibiting, who has narcissistic traits.
Yeah.
Speak to them. What would you tell them?
What I'd tell you is, you may not have caused it. However, it is your responsibility to do something about it. And also to let you know that as much as you have had those traits, they could have been there for a while, and you know they've been there for a while, there is hope. There is hope. So if you choose to do something about it, then you're predisposing yourself to have a more fulfilling life, an easier time, even better health, and you can do yourself good by allowing yourself the opportunity to experiment with a different kind of life that is good and better than the one you have been living by. Yeah. So at Endeleo, we are, as we said, we are very inclusive. So if you would want to give it a try, to experiment and see how will this work, you're very welcome. We can have a call, we can have a one-on-one session, and something can begin to change about it. You didn't cause it, but it's your responsibility to do something about it. Yeah.
Awesome. And so how do they reach you?
Okay. Endeleo Counselling Therapy. You can search us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok. Send us a DM. Someone will respond to you. Am I allowed to share the number?
Yes.
Okay.
Please, go ahead.
Then we also have our office line. That's 0708 092 290. Give us a call. Send us a WhatsApp. and we'll be able to begin, the journey of you discovering that maybe you're living below your potential and you can get something that can allow you to live a very fulfilling life. And you uphold your power. Like I said, there are very many kinds.
ways.
It doesn't mean we'll be taking it away.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Evelyn, you've mentioned that you've been a victim to this. I don't know where you're at with that. Yes, but I'll also give the invitation that as much as today we were talking about the perpetrators,
You're right.
Doesn't mean that we're excluding the victim. We would like both of them to be restored, to be at their best.
Right. Yeah. I think, yes, definitely it's a journey.
Yeah.
And I think just like you've said, it's both those living with narcissistic traits, but also the victims. So if you're a victim of narcissistic abuse, if you're you're doubting, maybe someone called you a narcissist, sorry, but we're not labeling now.
Yeah.
But if that happened, explore it with Carmilla. I think she's a very good psychotherapist, very well versed in that area. And thank you so much, Carmilla, for sharing your time with us, sharing your insights with us, being a change maker as well, driving change around this growing global concern. Yeah. So I really appreciate you and being candid and being willing to go out of against the grain. Yeah. So I think that's all we had time for.
Yeah.
To our audience, thank you so much. Imagine we've come to the end of the season. But watch this space. We'll be back with more content for season 2.
Yeah.
Like, subscribe, share, and also give your feedback. What do you want to see in season 2 related to narcissism, related to narcissistic abuse, related to faith, related to mental health, secure leadership? What do you want to see? So thank you so much. Thank you for being with us, and see you season 2. Bye.